Hello everyone, welcome to the NEET Gate. This is Dr. Sumaya Khan. I have brought another video for you on the thyroid gland and its disorder. So in this video, we will be studying about the structure of the thyroid gland, the functions of the thyroid gland and its associated disorders. What are the disorders that is caused by the deficiency or excess of the thyroid gland? Now let's begin with the structure of the thyroid gland. So if we study about the structure, first of all, it is the largest endocrine gland. The first and the most important point, that is the largest gland out of the all endocrine glands we will be studying. Coming to its location with respect to the larynx and the trachea, which is a voice box, and this is your windpipe. It is located on the upper portion of the trachea and below the larynx. And it is a butterfly shaped structure which is bilobed in nature. And both the lobes of the thyroid gland is connected by the isthmus. This portion in the middle portion you can see on the thyroid gland is your isthmus. Most of the cancers of the thyroid gland is affecting these regions, these lobes of the thyroid gland, but still there are about 2 to 8% of the cancers which can affect this isthmus portion also. Now, let's come to the next topic, that is the histology of the thyroid gland. So, what do you understand by the histology? So, internally structure we are going to study in the histology of the thyroid gland. That is on the basis of the cell or the tissue level we are going to study. So, if we study the thyroid gland, you can see there are different structures present in this structure. So, thyroid gland is made up of about thyroid follicles, which is about 3 billion in number. 3 billion thyroid follicles made up of our thyroid gland. These follicles, these follicles are made up of cuboidal cells. Okay, they are made up of cuboidal follicular cells, which are also known as the acinal cells. Okay, we call them as acinal cells or follicular cells. In the middle of these follicles, in the center of these follicles, there is a fluid present which is known as the colloid. Now, what does that colloid meant for? This colloid actually contains thyroglobulin in it, plus it contains a T3 hormone and a T4. I tell you what are these T3 and T4, but colloid contains these three things in it. It contains thyroglobulin, it contains T3, it contains the T4 in it. T3, T4 are your thyroxine hormones. Apart from that, surrounding it, a lot of blood capillaries are present in between these thyroid follicles. And another important types of cells which are found in this histology, if you look, is the C cells or the parafollicular cells. These are very important because these follicular cells or acinal cells is going to produce a hormones which is known as the thyroxine. So acinal cells or the follicular cells is going to produce the hormone which is known as the thyroxine, and thyrocalcitonin, which is another hormone produced by the thyroid gland, is produced by the C cells or the follicular cells. This is an important question for your MCQ. Okay, C cells or the parafollicular cell will going to produce a thyrocalcitonin, and acinal, all the follicular cells is going to produce a thyroxine hormone. So this is about it. Apart from that, in the middle portion of the follicular cells, you can see here the lot of blood vessels and the tissues are present. This is comprising your stroma, okay, where our C cells are present. So this is about the histology of the thyroid gland. Now let's come to the regulation of the thyroid hormones. How the thyroid hormones is under the regulation of the hypothalamus and under the regulation of the pituitary gland. So hypothalamus is going to release the TRH. What does that TRH is? Thyrotropin. Okay, thyrotropin releasing hormone is your TRH, which is going to be released by the master of the master gland, that is the hypothalamus. Once it is secreted, it will be carried to the pituitary gland. Which portion of the pituitary gland? Anterior pituitary. We know that the thyroid hormones are under the control of the anterior pituitary, which is going to in turn release what? Thyroid stimulating hormone, which is going to release thyroid stimulating hormone. This hormone which is going to be released is going to act on a thyroid gland, which is going to produce T3 and T4, triiodothyronine. What we call it as triiodothyronine. And this T4 is tetraiodothyronine. iodothyronine. It is based on what? It is based on the presence of the number of the iodine molecules. T4 contains 4 iodine molecules and it contains 3 iodine molecules. Okay, till here T3, T4 is produced. Now, first of all, it is important for you to understand that T4 has a very less thyroxine activity in it, but it is produced in more quantity compared to the T3, which has less, or you can say which has more thyroxine activity. Okay, more thyroxine activity, but produced in less quantity. The second point is that it is produced in the less quantity. T4 less, or you can say less thyroxine activity, produced in more quantity. T3 has a more thyroxine activity but produced in less quantity. So body has, find an alternative for this. What they do, when the thyroxine hormone reaches to other peripheral tissues, these T4 is converted into the T3 with the help of the enzyme which is known as the iodinase. Okay, it is going to be converted into T3 with the help of the enzyme which is known as the iodinase, which is going to convert T4 into T3, which is a more active in terms of its thyroxine activity. Now, this is about its mechanism. How does it is controlled under the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus. Now, there is always a negative feedback mechanism. You can't secrete anything in an excess quantity. There should be a stoppage. So when the thyroxine level in the blood comes to a normal quantity, what does it happens? These T3 and T4 will act on TRH also, and they're going to act on the TSH also. So this is how they are going to be released and inhibits the synthesis of TSH as well as TRH to bring the thyroxine to the normal level. So once again, when there is a requirement of the body for the thyroid hormone, hypothalamus again starts secreting TRH, which is going to act on the pituitary, which is going to next act on the thyroid gland, and for your T3 is going to produce. So this cycle goes on and on according to the requirement of the thyroxine hormone in the body. So this is how the level of the thyroid hormone is regulated in our body. This is it. Now, next thing is about the functions of the thyroxine and the thyrocalcitonin. I told you that the two hormones produced by the thyroid gland are thyroxine and thyrocalcitonin. Let's come to the thyroxine. First of all, it controls our basic metabolic rate, that is BMR. What does you mean by BMR? Actually, all the carbohydrate, fats, protein metabolism is known as the BMR. When the carbohydrate will synthesize, when they will break. Similarly, for the proteins and the fats, synthesis and the breakdown is controlled by this thyroxine hormone. So this is the first and the foremost, or you can say important function of the thyroxine. Some individuals which have thyroid issues or thyroid disorders, and sometimes if they undergo the surgery for the thyroid gland removal, their BMR affects a lot and their whole body is going to suffer, because metabolism of the whatever food we are taking, we're taking the carbohydrate, we're taking the fats, we're taking the proteins, everything is going to be altered because of this. The second thing, another important function is the tissue differentiation and the metamorphosis. The larvae frog is converted into the adult frog because of the synthesis of this thyroxine hormone. So it is very important in the metamorphosis of the larvae frog into the adult frog. It controls the urine output also. It supports the formation of the red blood cells. It increases the rate in the strength of the heartbeat. So definitely it is going to affect the blood flow also. Another important effect it have is the calorigenic effect. What do you mean by calorigenic effect? It increases what? It increases the respiration. Okay, it increases the respiration in our body, and thus what? Energy production. So it is associated with the increasing in respiration and the energy production. So that is what we call as the calorigenic effect, which is a function of the thyroxine hormone. Now, let's come to the thyrocalcitonin. Its secretion is, regulated by the presence of the calcium in the blood. So it is actually a hypocalcemic hormone. What does that mean? It decreases the calcium level in the blood. It decreases the calcium level in the blood. How does it do? There are two things by which the blood calcium level can be decreased. The first of all, it is going to take the calcium from the blood and deposit it in the bone. This is the first way the blood is going to decreases its calcium level. And how? By taking the calcium from the blood and storing it in the bones. The second thing, it increases the excretion of the calcium. Okay, increases the excretion of the calcium in the urine. Instead of reabsorbing it from the urine during the urine formation, it starts excreting more calcium ion into the urine. So this is the two ways how which thyrocalcitonin acts as a hypocalcemic hormone. So these are the functions of the thyroxine and the thyrocalcitonin. Let's go ahead further. Very, very important term in terms of your MCQ. Will definitely get the question from this thyroid disorders. So we will be discussing thyroid disorders in the two, that is the hypothyroidism and the hyperthyroidism. A decreased secretion of the thyroid hormones is your hypo, and the excess or the increased secretion is known as the hyperthyroidism. We will be studying about the 4 diseases in the hypothyroidism. Number 1, cretinism. 2, myxedema. 3rd, endemic goiter. And the 4th, Hashimoto's disease. These are the 4 disorders that is caused due to the decreased secretion of the thyroxine hormone. And there is a one disease that we'll be discussing here is the exophthalmic goiter, also known as the Graves' disease, caused due to the increased secretion of the thyroxine hormone. So before going to these hypothyroidism, I have been showing you here what are the symptoms that is caused by the hyperthyroidism. So first symptom is the exophthalmos. What do you mean by exophthalmos? You know, the patients suffering from this hyperthyroidism, they have their eyes as if they're bulging out from their orbits. Okay, it feels like as if they're protruding forwards. So that is the exophthalmos, which mainly affects the eyes. Second thing, goiter. Definitely goiter will be there. Arrhythmias and tachycardia. What are these arrhythmias? You know, irregularities in the heartbeat is your arrhythmias. Second thing, tachycardia is what? Our increased heartbeat. Okay, increased heartbeat is what? Tachycardia. This is the another symptom of the hyperthyroidism. Nausea, diarrhea. Oligomenorrhea, you know, there is increased menstrual flow, or you know, repeatedly, very infrequently they are going to have periods. That is your oligomenorrhea. Muscle weakness, tremors in the hands and the legs, sweating, headache, weight loss. There are many, you know, symptoms that is affecting the hyperthyroidism. But the main and the unique feature of the hyperthyroidism is the presence of the exophthalmos. This is the characteristic features of the patient suffering from hyperthyroidism. They have an eyes which is bulging out from their orbits, you know, so that is your exophthalmos. Now, let's go ahead with the cretinism, the first disease of the hypothyroidism. Here, the one of the main important point that we'll be discovering is the effects on the infants. It affects the children's, the infants. That is the cretinism. You can see 2 children here. They are looking like a children here, but they are actually of an age of about 20 to 23 years, but they look like as if they are a children's only. So it is affecting the infants. It causes hypothyroidism in the mother, that is responsible for the cretinism. So you get it or you inherit from your mother when we are in the womb of the mother. So it is a disease that is transmitted from the mother to the children during the embryo development. It decreases our basal metabolic rate. Height of the individual is affected, which we call as the stunted growth. Mentally, they are, you know, retarded. Second thing, dry skin, lethargy they'll have. You know, they always feel lazy and try to lie down. You know, they are not active. Another characteristic or the unique feature of the cretinism is the presence of the pigeon chest. You know, their chest bulges outwards. Okay, they bulges outward. Their chest feel like as if it is bulging out, like it is found in the pigeon. If you look at the pigeon bird, you will see their chest is protruded outwards. So that is the bulges outward chest is found in the cretinism children. So pigeon chest is a unique feature of the cretinism. Now, let's come to the myxedema. The main and the important difference between the cretinism and the myxedema is that it affects the adults. Cretinism affects the children. Myxedema is going to affect the adults. It causes low BMR, swollen face and hands. It leads to the myxomatous tissue differentiation. See, what does this statement means? You know, whenever a person is suffering from the myxedema, they start having a swollen face here. You can see in all the three figures, and mainly in the second and third lady, you will find out that they have a swollen face. So that is due to the deposition of the albuminous myxomatous tissue that's get deposited, and it leads to the myxedema. You know, guys, this figure is from about 1878, when for the first time myxedema was diagnosed. So this is a picture from the 1878 patients who was first of all diagnosed with the myxedema. It causes irregularities in the female menstrual cycle, reduced heart rate, pulse rate. So definitely your blood pressure and cardiac output will be affected. So what is the unique feature here? The unique feature is the swollen face and hands, and it affects the adults. So, you know, generally questions are asked based on those features which are not common between the two diseases. So that makes the question unique also and important also. Now, let's come to the endemic goiter. Endemic means, first of all, it is located to a particular region only or affecting the pupil of the particular area only. That is the endemic word, which can be used for endemic animals, also endemic goiter also. So endemic goiter is generally caused when there is a deficiency of the iodine in the drinking water. It leads to the endemic goiter. You can see a lady sitting here with a swollen thyroid gland. You can see this is what a endemic goiter look like. It is accompanied with the cretinism if it is affecting the children or adults in myxedema. It leads to the non-cancerous enlargement of the thyroid gland. I told you the histology of the thyroid gland that we have the acinal cells, right? Or you can say the follicular cells. So what happens in the endemic goiter? These acinal or the follicular cells, they starts increase in size. Okay, they start increasing in size, as well as they also enlarges, they increases their number also. But it is not a cancerous growth, it is a non-cancerous growth. So increase in the size and the number of the acinal cells leads to the endemic goiter. It affects mainly the people which are living in the hairy areas, where they are not getting more iodine rich water, or they do not consume more salt. So endemic goiter people suffering from this, they are advised to take the table salt which contain the iodine in it. Now, next disease of the last disease for this is the Hashimoto's disease. What does this Hashimoto's disease? First of all, it is an autoimmune disorder. Okay, it affects the immune system. You know, the what happens in generally in autoimmune diseases, that the body loses the ability of identifying the self cells and the non self cells. What does that mean? The cells which are our own body cells and the cells which are from the foreign cells. So they are unable to identify which cells to be degraded and which cells to be not degraded. So it is an autoimmune disorder, and that is why, you know, we call it as autoimmune thyroiditis also. We call it as autoimmune thyroiditis. Now it is caused maybe some people with the age, some people any injury to the thyroid gland can also lead to the Hashimoto's disease. When the thyroxine level in our body decreases to a particular normal level, what happens? Antibodies starts producing, and these antibodies are against the thyroid gland and start destroying the thyroid gland, and the person start having the Hashimoto's disease. Now, I hope you like the video. Please do like, subscribe, and share my Neat Game channel. And I'll be back with another video very soon with you. Thank you, guys.